Welcome to Throne Talk, presented by Barely Sober News. We're talking Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 1, called Dragonstone. I'm George Pecoraro, and Game of Thrones is back. We've been waiting, they put it off a couple months on us, but it is here now. Season 7 is here, and in classic Game of Thrones fashion. One of the coolest opening scenes to a season, Arya Stark killing about 30 members of the House Frey. This episode was done in classic Game of Thrones fashion. Arya Stark killed Walder Frey in the end of Season 6 and comes out and wants to finish the job in killing the whole House Frey. Poses as Walder Frey, has him drink fancy wine, which is poisoned. Why wouldn't men drink really fancy, expensive wine? But you don't know that it's going to be poisoned. So Arya posed as Walder Frey, saying, hey, you did not kill all the Starks. And you know what? You do not want to betray the Stark family. Arya goes and kills the whole House of Frey. That's how you do it. Game of Thrones, Season 7, starting off. That's how it is. And then after the scene with Arya, it kind of really downturned from there. The next best scene throughout this episode was probably Samwise being the janitor. Samwise got a new job. He's the janitor of the Maesters. He's the old town janitor. I mean, it was cool filming. It was a kind of funny, very funny scene flashing between him scooping up the people's poop, serving them, and grabbing people's books, and that's all he's doing. He's the intern of the Maesters, and it's kind of, when he gets there in Season 6, he's kind of glorified and kind of enjoying, like, oh my God, look at all these books, look at where I am. This is actually fantastic to be here, be in Old Town. But then it's down from there. He really is just he's an intern. He's a little bitch boy. He's not allowed to even read any of the books. He's kind of just stuck being people's servant. And you know what? It was a funny scene. Actually, watching it, my girlfriend was kind of like gagging a little bit, and it had me laughing every time Samwell was gagging. You know what? That besides Arya's first scene and besides Samwell's scene, this episode was really just a check-in where the characters are. They really wanted to just introduce everybody. Where is everybody right now? What they did was they wanted to throw everybody in at once. They kind of just let you know where Cersei and Jaime are, where Euron is, where Jon Snow and Sansa are, where Bronn is, where the Hound is, where Daenerys is. That's pretty much what it was. Right now, Season 7, Episode 1 they were just checking in on everybody. Besides Arya and Samwell, it was not that great of an episode according to Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones really puts out and really does a fantastic job for each episode. Is fantastic. This was kind of a first filler episode for Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? Maybe they didn't want to make too much expensive of an episode. Maybe they wanted you to catch up, and they wanted you to know where everyone is. But being that this is a shorter season, I'm expecting next week to be amped up. Episode 2 to really give it to us, to really give us some depth, to really give us some value, to really put the plot in. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about what's going to happen in Game of Thrones. Who's going to get the crown? Who's going to be the king? Who's going to be the queen? Who's going to be the king of Westeros and be in King's Landing? Who's going to fight the dragons? How are they going to kill the White Walkers? There is a lot of theories. But you know what? We're not really, after this first episode, we're not any closer to getting any clues about what is actually happening. Samwell is he kind of betrayed a little bit and started going in the forbidden section and kind of grabbing books because he's seen the White Walkers. He knows that it's very dangerous. He knows that winter is coming. He knows the White Walkers are coming. The storm is coming. And he knows that he needs to study, and no one believes it. Everyone thinks that the White Walkers are a myth. He believes that he needs to study and let Jon Snow how to kill him. Where is the dragon glass, how he can fight the White Walkers, and what he needs to do to let Jon Snow know, hey, this is what we need to do to fight against Winter and the White Walkers. A pretty cool part of this episode was Ed Sheeran was in it. I don't know if you know that, the music artist, being one of the Lannister soldiers. When Arya was riding her horse to get to King's Landing, he was there singing the song, and I was actually thinking in that scene that, oh wow, whoever's singing that, it's like an amazing voice. Turns out to be Ed Sheeran. I actually pointed it out to my girlfriend. Oh look, there's Ed Sheeran. And she's like, who's Ed Sheeran? Besides Arya, Samwell, and Ed Sheeran, thank you very much. It was a basic episode, you know. Jon Snow is more worried about the White Walkers. Sansa is more worried about Cersei. Sansa knows what Cersei can do. You know what? Jon Snow knows what the White Walkers can do. They've both seen the two biggest enemies that they have, and they're both scared of the one that they only met. So, I mean, yes, there's a big ice wall protecting them from the White Walkers, but come on, the White Walkers are like ice zombies. Of course, hashtag ice zombies. As far as Cersei, I think Jon Snow is right. She's pretty far away. She's got more things to worry about than leaving King's Landing or taking her army out of King's Landing and attacking Jon Snow. She wrote the message that Jon Snow should pledge allegiance to Cersei, but that's probably not going to happen, especially because of their Starks, and Sansa will not let that happen. You know what I mean? So really, who is the greater enemy, Cersei or White Walkers? I'm gonna say White Walkers on that one. So Daenerys went home and finally got to Westeros, and she went home to the last dragon castle. It was a kind of coming home scene for Daenerys. It was a real coming home for Daenerys. Everyone stayed back and let her really enjoy it, really walk the castle. You could see, the memories coming through her mind, coming through her as she was going through the castle. Besides that, you know what I mean? You got nothing really going on with Daenerys. She made it to Westeros. Who knows how long they stay in the castle? Bran made it to Castle Black, but who knows what he's going to do from there. So the Hound had a full circle moment going back to the house where he killed the father and a little girl and stole their money. And you kind of see really where the Hound is, and he's seeing him regretting the things he used to do, and then he properly buried the father and the daughter and really tried to be more religious and say a prayer, but he doesn't know how to do it. But you're seeing the Hound really change who he is. You could really see the Hound kind of change who he is and feel sorry for the things he's done. And it makes you really feel for him. It really makes you want to really root for his character. You're assuming that he ends up meeting the Mountain. As far as what's going on there. But that's another theory for another time. So going back to Jaime and Cersei, they're really trying to figure out who are their allies. They don't really have many, and then Euron Greyjoy comes in the picture, and he's proposing, look, I got 1,000 ships. I can do a lot of things for you. I want to be king. But basically, Cersei's like, why should I just make you king like that? Just because you got 1,000 ships? You got to prove yourself to me. Why would I make you a king? Who are you? You're not even that good looking. You know what I mean? I got my bro right here that we're banging, but, that's another story. So Euron's saying, all right, you don't think I'm good enough? He says, I'm gonna do a big gesture for you, and he leaves. Now, what possibly could he do that's big enough for Cersei to want him to be the king to marry him? What could Euron possibly do that's so amazing enough, so special, that Cersei would want to make him a king and be a part of King's Landing and use his 1,000 ships? What? I'm thinking about it. What could it be that Euron does something so outrageous and so fantastic that Cersei wants him to marry him? It's Cersei here. We're talking about the craziest bitch alive. We're talking Cersei. You got to do some really crazy ass stuff. You got to do some really crazy ass stuff for her to want to marry you. And the only thing that I can really think of is I think Euron is going to go and fight Daenerys, and he's going to try to kill one of the dragons and bring Cersei a dragon head. What else could it possibly be? There's 3 dragons right now. Not all 3. There's no way 3 dragons are making it through the end of the show. There's no way, right? One of them's got to get taken down. One of them's going to get taken down. What other thing out there is going to prove to Cersei that Euron is legit? Is he going to get gold? She don't need that. Is he going to try to kill Jon Snow and Jon Snow be dead for the second time? What could possibly Euron do? What could he do? Unless he goes and kills all the White Walkers. Oh, look at this shit, baby. This is the thing you're missing out on. I just killed all those White Walkers. Nah. What is he going to do? Go and kill all these White Walkers? He doesn't even know the White Walkers are around. He's just trying to be king. He wants to take over the Iron Throne. You know what? The only way that I see it being possible is Daenerys' dragons. He knows that she has them. She knows that they're a huge threat to Cersei, and he needs to take one of those dragons out, lighten the load a little bit for Cersei, And you know what? They're going to combine their forces, and then they only got 2 dragons to deal with. I'm sure Oron's not going to kill the big one, but you know what? With 1,000 ships, he's going for those dragons. I'm sure he can set up some type of trap and kill one of them. He doesn't need to go and demolish Daenerys. He just needs to go and send her a message, bring a special gift back to Cersei so that he can be the king. And you know what? And they're going to fight together. Will Jaime like this? Probably not. Jaime's going to probably hate the crap out of this, that this Greyjoy's going to be marrying his sister. So all in all, Season 7, Episode 1 of Game of Thrones really wasn't that fantastic. Game of Thrones is really going to step it up because that's what they do. I really don't see them having another episode like this. They don't know how to make bad episodes. But you know what? As far as Episode 1 for Season 7, it was kind of a letdown. It started great, but really went down from there. They're really kind of tracking and let you know where everybody is. This is where the people are. And then now, hopefully, Episode 2 really pushes it along. We get, like, more deaths. Who knows? There's a lot of theories about who's going to be at the end, who's going to be on the Iron Throne. Honestly, it could be anybody. Everyone's talking Daenerys, Jon Snow, Tyrion, Sansa. Honestly, it could be Brienne of Tarth. It could be Bran. It could be the Hound. I mean, for all the things we've seen in Game of Thrones, would you be surprised if some random person ended up on the Iron Throne? It could be Podrick. Anything is possible with Game of Thrones, so don't rule out anything. I mean, if you really wanted a storybook ending of Game of Thrones, Daenerys and Jon Snow are on the throne, along with Tyrion being the hand of the king, blah, blah, blah. Dragons are nice. They kill the White Walkers. This isn't that fantastic. That's a storybook ending. Game of Thrones doesn't do crap like that. They really throw you curveballs out of nowhere. They're throwing you knuckleballs. Game of Thrones is giving you crap you can't even think of right now. There's so many theories. There's so many things at play you can't even figure it out. I don't care what theory you have, you think it's going to be true. Anything can happen in Game of Thrones, and I'm excited for Season 7. I cannot wait for next week, Episode 2. It's going to be called Stormborn. I'm not going to read the summary. I'm not going to say anything else about it, but I'm excited. Game of Thrones, baby, it's back. Game is back. Winter is coming. Are you ready? Are you ready? Ice Zombies. Hashtag Ice Zombies. Let's go. Game of Thrones. Why don't you like and subscribe to the YouTube page, huh? Why don't you go to Twitter and Instagram and follow us at Barely Sober News? That's right. This is Throne Talk by Barely Sober News. I'm George Pecoraro. Thanks for listening. Hashtag Ice Zombies.